In our previous video covering the appropriately named Mad Jack Churchill, we talked about his most talked about achievements during and after the Second World War. The most obvious thing we realized about him is excitement flowed through his blood every time he was on a mission, and he was probably insane during the times of war. We basically did a quick run through over who he was and what made him tick. Now we're gonna go on the more intricate details of Mad Jack, the method to his madness, if we were to be clever about it. If you want to understand more of the context around these facts about Mad Jack, go ahead and get yourselves a refresher by watching the Part 1 video. Before he became the madman we know in history books today, Jack Churchill was a male model, a newspaper editor, and an extra in movies like The Thief of Baghdad and A Yank at Oxford. He also participated in bagpiping competitions, and boy was he good. Back in 1938, he was second place in one contest at the Aldershot Tattoo. It was kinda controversial too, since he was an Englishman who beat a good amount of Scots just to reach second place. Speaking of competitions, he was also Britain's representative in the World Archery Championship in Oslo, where he almost won that competition too. During the war, aside from his kill with a bow and arrow, he was the type of guy who'd be fit to raise the morale of his comrades. As one war diary wrote, one of the most reassuring sights was the sight of Captain Churchill as he ran hither and thither with a bow and arrow on the beach. His time in Le Pinay, where he killed a guy with an arrow before the Brits landed, Jack wanted to play on his bagpipes. He played the traditional Scottish song, March of the Cameron Men, probably as a way to really get the boys fired up. There's also proof that the madman would brandish a sword into battle, with photographic evidence of him charging head first with his Scottish broadsword. This is also where his famous quote, "Any officer who goes into battle without a sword is improperly dressed," was reportedly birthed. Surprisingly enough, there was actually a time where Mad Jack was out of action for a while. This was due to a little incident that happened just after he joined the Commandos. After finishing a mission unscathed, one of the demolition experts accidentally blew up a charge right next to the Mad One and sent glass shards from Churchill's wine bottle, that he was drinking by the way, straight up to his forehead. He got better of course and proceeded to continue his commando business. The bagpipes were always there with Churchill, even during the commando missions. As always, he used the sound to keep the spirits high. When he captured those 42 prisoners, he told his commanding officer, "I maintain that as long as you tell a German loudly and clearly what to do, if you are senior to him, he will cry Jawohl and get on with it enthusiastically and efficiently." The man was constantly churning out quotable things. When he got captured, the Germans thought he was a relative of then Prime Minister Winston Churchill. That's right, lads. His name duped the Germans as much as it did for us. His first escape from the German concentration camps was pretty much him sliding underneath barbed wire fences. His co-escapee would describe him as rugged and full of entertaining anecdotes. We'd thought as much. Mad Jack and his co-escapees would spend 2 days stealing vegetables, jumping freight trains, and basically looking for a way out of the city as the Germans searched for them. Eventually, they got recaptured. The Mad One basically had a sprained ankle throughout these 2 days and didn't complain even once, reportedly. The second escape was a 100-mile walk with more liberated vegetables and a can to cook them in, before the Americans found him. Mad Jack Churchill was awarded for his efforts with a Distinguished Service Order and a Military Cross and Bar. His post-war life wasn't as Hogan's Heroes as his time in service, but he was still doing things that most would consider exciting. In his 40s, he was training to be a parachutist. In his 50s, he liked to surf, and was even the first person to ride the waves of the longest river in Britain, which is the River Severn. He learned surfing while being a military instructor in Australia. After he retired from the military, there was no way a man like Mad Jack Churchill wouldn't let out his eccentric behavior every now and then. It was said that every time he went home from the city via train, he'd throw his briefcase out of the window and explain to the confused commuters that he tossed it into his backyard so he wouldn't have to lug it around. John Malcolm Thorpe Fleming Churchill spent his sunset years surprisingly tame with his wife, while sailing coal-powered ships through the River Thames, piloting remote-controlled warships, and raising his family until he died peacefully in 1996. Mad Jack was the physical embodiment of a childhood storybook war hero, and much more than that. Thank you so much for reaching the end of the second video about Mad Jack Churchill. We hope you learned a lot about this madman, and we have more for you in our channel, so do check that out. What do you think of this guy? Go leave your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and as always, we'll see you in the next video.